Again, the civil society organizations in Nigeria have called on the Independent National Electoral Commission to improve provisions for persons with disabilities during the conduct of elections in the country. Now, one of the leading election monitoring groups, Yaga Africa, urged INEC to improve training for ad hoc officials on disability provisions and upgrade its electoral technology for optimal functionality. This recommendation was contained in a report entitled Process and Results Statement on the just concluded Ondo State governorship election. The group also emphasized the need for INEC to prioritize ballot secrecy and enforce electoral guidelines, particularly accessibility for voters with disabilities. That's what we want to discuss now as we bring in the chairman of the Lagos State Albinism Association of Nigeria, Tolani Ojuri. Thanks a lot and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
So, what is your assessment of the Ondo governorship election? That's the most recent, and there's a lot of reactions on that outcome. But in terms of where it leaves or left persons with disabilities, what reports are you getting?
Between Saturday and now, the reports we're getting is still the same story. Persons with disability are not prioritized. Enough provisions are not made for persons with disability during the elections. Officials are not, most times they don't even know what to do. Times where you have the materials on ground, you have some assistive devices on ground. The electoral officials, yes, we are aware that they are ad hoc staff. They are just recruited for that exercise. But they are not even trained well enough to attend to persons with disability. Some of them don't even know persons with disability. Let me use myself as an example. The electoral official, I'm doing the last elections in Lagos, the governorship elections. She's like, so what exactly is wrong with you? What do I do with you? And I had to explain that INEC showed us magnifying lenses. These are assistive devices for persons with low vision. I've got low vision, so definitely you should have a magnifying lens. I'm like, I don't have that here. There are some forms that INEC made provisions for. That's EC38 forms. That captures the data of persons with disability. That helps for planning. It helps for future elections and all that. They don't even know where the form is. Some didn't come with the forms because from the reports we have, just let's take all the government elections from last year, March, Lagos, the general elections from last year. You have Edo, you have Ondo. It's still the same story. The slight difference is that in some areas, the forms, the EC48 forms and EC30 forms, that helps in capturing persons, the data of persons with disability, were made available. Most times, the assistive devices, the Braille ballot guide are not available. Magnifying lenses are not available. That's not even talk about accessibility.
Wow.
That is a different kettle of fish on its own. So that INEC have not really done enough. It's still out of 100, but let's just say 20.
Wow. So what's the problem here? I need us to be very specific. Is it a lack of, training of this staff on how to handle maybe what INEC has provided? Because every year when you see INEC's report during every election, they to an extent report that they were quite inclusive in their election. When you look at the framework that we see today, what's the problem and why are we not moving from where we are?
The problem basically is training and logistics. Training, because all through last year, just before the elections, I was part of a series of training with INEC officials, but you find out that these officials are not the ones that get to the polling units. Most of the time, even during election day, most of them are in the control room, or maybe they're just moving from one polling station to the other. Training for INEC, either ad hoc staff or permanent staff, should be a continuous thing. And training should not just be in just a room. Training should be on every platform you can find. Because once the INEC official knows what to do, knows what these things are meant for, some don't even know what those are. Some ad hoc staff have not even seen a Braille ballot guide before. So the training should be constant. Yes, they can't talk about, oh, there's no funds for this. There's always funds marked out for training. I am training under INEC's budget every year. And we wonder what they are doing with those funds. So it's not just 6 months to elections, 3 months to like, no, it has to be a continuous process. What we have now, we have to get elections anyways. We have some states who have their elections, not with the general election. So training should be constant. Logistics. The last governorship election in Lagos, yes, they bought the assistive devices. They showed the representatives.
Beforehand?
Beforehand, yes, days before. We have this thing. But on election day, they were nowhere to be found, not even just one.
So what happened?
I guess it's more, I guess it's logistics between INEC office and the polling units. Okay. Something somewhere, probably locked up in a store somewhere, because they never told us that those things were stolen.
All right. So but my question was actually even, so what happened, for someone like you now with this kind of need, were you still able to vote? What impact did that discovery
the problem we had with that is like, okay, a blind person, someone with low vision, supposed to be a secret ballot. And the option the officials gave me was, well, since there's no assistive device here, let your aide help you. At that point, I don't trust my aide to that level. So that means whatever I do right there, my aide knows. And that is what we are really, really trying to get out of the way. Secret ballot, let it be secret ballot. Let me have access to the polling unit and let me perform my civic rights on my own. That is the goal. And INEC did not, for persons with disability, about 80-90% of persons with disability could not get that done.
And this is, futile effort, because most times before the election we see civil societies also trying to train persons with disabilities on how to use things like this during election, especially even those that want to, partake or participate as one of the candidates in elections. So talk to us about how, this really reflects on the morale of persons with disabilities after months of training and then coming on election day, and they're not included in some of the materials that INEC brings.
What we've come to now is we've said so much, we've had so much of talk here, reports from elections. There was a report during the last general election. There was a report from the Edo State election. Yes. There's a report now from the Ondo State election. It's like INEC they don't really seem to like, well, it's a disability issue. The body language, they are not really. And yeah, persons with disability under their various organizations, there's still so much to be done. That the fact that you couldn't perform your civic during the elections, you just don't sit down and fold your arms. Somebody is responsible for this. And until people who are responsible for these lapses are punished, INEC will not sit up. Either class actions or probably just calling them out and really, really having a face-to-face with them. Because each time you say this, if you've had validation meetings after elections and they just keep telling you, you're sorry. No, you can't be sorry for a job you're paid for and you could not deliver on. So somebody has to pay the price each time. Because you have it that, oh, we bought these things. It's not for me that you bought it. It's for me is, yes, at the time those things were needed at the polling units, were they available? The answer is no. We're talking about accessibility. Like I said, that is even different. We're talking about accessibility. Before you cited the polling units, did you take into consideration that somebody's going to come there on wheelchair? Because the idea is, oh, it's only disability issues about persons on wheelchair. No. You have people on crutches. You have people who practically crawl to the... Right. So are those places accessible? You place a polling unit across the gutter. There's no provision for that person with disability to cross the gutter. That means that person is left out. So that happens from time to time. So OPDs and that's of persons with disabilities definitely should move against INEC because the number to us now might be okay, maybe, but person with disability, if if they really come out, is a large number. It is out of every 100, you have about 15 persons with disability. Some are not visible.
Say 1 out of 6?
Yes. Because it is,
and that's a lot.
That's a whole lot. Most of them don't. At least last elections in Lagos, I witnessed about, I went around about 12 polling units. You know, we had 2 elections, back to back. Some people that came out for because there was so much awareness, come out to vote. I mean, there were some people who came out for the first one and had a nasty experience, did not come back for the second one.
Right.
I mean, how would a man of 70 feel if he had, with physical disability, he came to vote and 2 able men had to carry him in front of everybody? But Baba walked to the polling himself. But because the polling unit was placed on an elevated platform and across the gutter, because he's feeble, he had to be lifted. Yeah. So that's happened a lot. And once people don't feel comfortable with provisions made for them, word of mouth goes, oh, better stay at home, their persons with disability were not prioritized. People prioritize persons with disability on election day out of pity, not because that is their right. Okay,
so how is that going to determine future elections, your role or your participation in future elections? Looking at this is still the regular narrative. What happens now for, regular politicians? They say they're already even preparing for the next general election. But with these peculiar needs of persons with disabilities, what do you think is the way out beyond, punitive measures?
Well, we started talking to our people because let me give you an example that in Lagos, for instance, we're going to have, I think, a local election next year. Start talking to our people. And it is not just on election day. Because most times the focus is on election day. Start getting involved. Start engaging these people. What would happen to you on election day? You will have seen snippets of it during party meetings. If you go for party meeting, you will have seen, because if your party meeting venue is not accessible, that should tell you something that, A, if not enough provision made for me at this meeting, at this venue of my own political party, definitely that party will not push. Because most party agents, anyways, who come there, a party agent is meant to do more than just to count votes. A party agent should even look out for more things. So we tell our people, get involved, get involved. Yes, I know it's not easy. The barriers are there. The society, like, what are you looking for? You just stay at home. With this your disability, just stay. But he who wears the shoe knows where it hurts. So the more you get involved, the more you realize this, that it is not on election day, like I said earlier. You have to see those things, even if it's just for you to just go and observe. You are not even contesting, because the focus more on that election was we want to be voting and want person's ability to contest. No, just make sure that you are involved, go for the meetings and see how things are done. And that will tell you the priority placed on persons with disability during the political process, because the process has started now, because the local government people, they started engaging bit by bit. They started engaging bit by bit. So that's what we're telling them. Start engaging them. Start asking them questions. Start sitting at their meetings. If you can't access, there's a neighborhood meeting now, and you can't access that venue, or at that venue, there's no reasonable accommodation. You can't call me for a neighborhood meeting, a ward meeting, for instance, and you're putting me under a canopy in this kind of sun. Okay. I'm like, oh, no, it's not a big deal. For me, it's a big deal. Right. You can't put me under the sun. That's so you need to give persons with disability reasonable accommodation during the political meetings, during the party meetings, and that will translate during the election day. So that is the way to go. And like we keep pushing, keep getting involved with these people, see what they're doing. And so, most times, the politicians, they're not even aware. It's not in their consciousness. Mm-hmm. So we try to bring these things to their consciousness that, hey, you're not doing a favor. No. It's a collective thing. It might be you tomorrow. The fact that disability hasn't gotten to you does not mean it has passed you by. I'm like, oh, God forbid. No, it's not about God. No, it's not that. Some people acquire disability. Some people were born with a disability. You could have children. You could have your children's children. I mean, you have kids born with cerebral palsy every day. You have kids with autism. You have kids with Down syndrome. These children or these persons live in the same society with us. We are trying to build an inclusive society, not just on election day. It's an everyday thing.
All right. So let's look at monitoring and evaluation. You mentioned that despite advocacy, despite trainings, you still get a lot of apology after the election. We're sorry and all of that. Do you send your representatives to possibly polling units on election day, not just to observe, but to also raise these concerns very fast or very early, just to address the situation? I mean, after the trainings, there should be someone to also ensure that persons with disabilities who arrive at the polling units are properly welcomed. And if this is not done properly by INEC, then the concern should be raised immediately at that polling unit.
Yes, he made a reference to Yaga Africa. Some organizational persons with disabilities had election monitoring team. I know of TAF Africa. I know of Inclusive Friends, who had an election monitoring team. During the last governorship elections, I was out on the field, and these issues were raised. A particular issue was the form EC30H. Most of the electoral officers are like, what are you asking? What's the form for? This form is for persons with disability, for you to capture, and that form would help INEC in planning for subsequent elections. Some electoral officials were really welcoming. They looked for it and this is, I found mine, just keep it to the side and all that. But hey, I live in just one tiny part of Lagos, and because if you're not an election observer, you can't just be moving around on it. Even with the fact that I had a media crew with me, right, it wasn't that easy moving around on election day. So that's we did, and we found out that the election after, which was I think a week or 2 weeks after, there was so much change, because some of the lapses that were in the first one, they tried to correct it, but even at that, it's like doing remedial classes for a child that failed one exam. It's still a long way to go, and there are times that the ad hoc staff, they're under pressure. You got to a polling unit, and about 500 people waiting, looking at you as if, you have a gold box inside your, and I'm talking to the person about person's ability, like, can you see the crowd here? Can you just please allow? So that's continuous training. Training, like I said, should not just be in the room. It's going to be a continuous on radio, tell people, like to enlighten people that when you see persons with disability, please let them go to the head of the queue and all that. Not just these things, the provisions are made in the law, not just, let the person just do and go. No, it's not just out of pity. There's no pity party during election days. It's just for them to make sure that things are done. And once persons with disability don't feel safe, they won't come out.
But what kind of engagement, what kind of added engagement is needed to follow INEC through? Because the law is there, as we all know, and robust provisions have been made for it. You've spoken about a certain level of understanding you had, in engagement before the elections, especially at least the one in Lagos. But getting to the voting arena, these features are not there. So with that in your mind, what is the level of engagement? What kind of engagement would you also be advocating for with INEC? Because INEC, from what you've said, will tell you one thing, but then when you get to the polling units, the ad hoc staff doesn't know. This has also been reflected by other analysts who have spoken to this issue previously, that there is this disconnect between INEC over there in their office and INEC on the field.
Okay, I noticed you kept mentioning INEC. The states, each state has an electoral agents.
They have their own
in Lagos last year.
Right.
And like I said earlier, that last year we had series of last year of 2023, 2022. We had series of capacity building sessions. We have one thing I feel that we should do is to bring them to our midst, bring the election officials to our midst, let them hear from the people. It's not just to do it at one point. You can split Lagos, for instance, to 5 Ibile divisions. Let's have like a town hall meeting for a person with disability. Okay. Let them tell you what exactly happened. The reports are not enough because the reports are written by electoral observers who just come to a police station, probably stay maybe an hour or 30 minutes and go. Let people tell you what exactly they went through. That's even, we can start doing that now when there's no pressure, as in, because the moment elections is like 6 months down the line, there's always the pressure, there's a timeline and all that. And like I still said earlier, that they keep saying, oh, there's no fund, there's funds for training. And there's room for collaboration. If INEC is really, really open, and for me, as far as I'm concerned, they are not really prioritizing issues of persons with disability. Okay,
but are you pushing for it? Is there some kind of push from your agencies as, you know, the Albinism Foundation? Is there some form of, you know, continuous engagement with them, pushing for this kind of, you know, to make them, you know, aware of how peculiar this need is?
Well, it was mentioned to them during one of the sessions because I mean, training. For me, I'm so much for training, right. Continuous training. Let's keep pushing this. But like I said, funding is an issue.
The issue,
and that's one they keep hiding under that canopy. That well, there's not enough money for us to do that. But as at now, because we are aware that by next year, now there's still so much activity. Last year, especially,
right.
They will be in the eye of the storm, and they tell you what lapses we have. Now that there's no pressure, can you just come for our meetings and let's talk about these things? And that is the way we've spoken to them nicely, and not until we start carrying placards. And we don't usually want things to get to that level. And that's why we will step it up between now, December, because the World Ability Day is coming up on December 3rd. And these are one of the major issues that, hey, we're talking to you now. The time you start coming to both INEC and the political parties, we're talking to INEC. So you political party, they have a body. The political parties have a body, IPAC. Right. Yeah, they were in the mix too. They were in that with that. By the time you start coming to us to canvass for votes, we will not listen to you. So by the time you're coming to us, so let's keep having this meeting. Even we could give a platform whereby INEC comes, IPAC comes, and we give probably your candidates time to say whatever they want to say. So it's going to be a win-win situation. So the earlier we start preparing, the better for everybody.
Right. So if INEC is saying that funding is a big issue, how do we leverage on technology? I mean, everyone has access to their mobile phones. Perhaps we should be looking into that. So we're still at a time where there's still concerns raised about the use of the beavers, even for those who are not with disabilities in that sense. Perhaps we should be looking at makeshift centers, online voting and all of that. But what are the major areas that you think we can leverage on technology to ensure proper inclusion of persons with disabilities?
In the area of awareness, we could have radio jingles. We could have continuous radio jingles, continuous voter education. It's like I said, it's not supposed to be 6 months, 3 months to election. Continuous one. Most of the youth are on social media, and you have a large number of youth with disability. You let's use our social media handles, Instagram, Facebook. Let's have even the skits.
Right.
15, 30 minutes skits. Let's drive the message through there. The entry cost is pretty low for those ones. Get people, let them get this thing done. And you could always edit the message. And if you start with the low message, one item now, you could do 2, you could do 3. People would relate to these things at everyday life. So it has to be a continuous thing. And like you said, technology, everybody carries the mobile phone. Even the cheaper phones, the
not even
low,
an Android. Doesn't
yes,
have to
the
be an
low-end phone.
Yeah.
You could do text to them. My organization, for instance, now, we leverage on technology. For instance, you have harsh weather conditions.
Indeed.
You start sending text to people. The weather is harsh. Please protect yourself. INEC can do that. Elections are coming. Don't wait till election time. Know your rights. Please prepare for election. I mean, that engage your office. I mean, political office holders. Just messages that are not that are well balanced. And when people see it, even if the people are illiterate, we'll give it to somebody to read. Oh, I saw this message. I saw this text.
Right.
Can you please read it for me? And that, I'm sure, will go a long way. I think we could achieve 70, 80% penetration into people. And, when people hear that, oh, this is what INEC said, this is what INEC said, so that you could tell people at the polling unit, this is what INEC said, this is what INEC said. So technology is the way to go. And that is really, will be a fantastic thing if INEC can really leverage more on that.
All right. So to bring this all home and, talking about push and being intentional, at least seeing as there is still that challenge of inclusion on ground, we are seeing many government houses at state levels and even at the federal level opening up offices for persons living with disabilities. Here in Lagos, we have that. Right, like a special advisor. There's also an office.
I don't think Lagos has that yet.
All right, but at least there is, a government face. I remember I met her at an event now. The office of persons living with
Lagos Lasoda.
Right.
Yes.
How far have these initiatives gone? How would you measure the impact they have made?
Concerning elections or generally? Generally,
right. We're talking about inclusion after all.
Okay, Lagos State Office of Disability Affairs, it's been a rough ride, and it's been a bumpy ride all the while, but we've been able to stabilize now. I can speak only for my cluster. Absolutely. That's the albinism cluster. Engaging, that's the means to we engage the government. Oh, this is, because anything you talk about with other ministries and departments, come through Lasoda. And in the area of the semantic areas, education, health, because the Lagos State Special People's Law makes provision for free education, free health for persons with disability, and priority access on transportation. That's what the law makes provisions for. In the area of health, for persons with albinism, Lagos State had made it such that if you have a person with albinism, anyone that you see anywhere in Lagos, you direct them to LASU to have their skin checked. This is to fight against skin cancer, because we had about a dozen people with skin cancer last year, and Lagos State had to step in on an emergency note, and they had to take care of them. These are preventable diseases. And so this is one of the things that we were able to do through Lasoda. Through Lasoda. So you talk about the blind, the deaf, persons with intellectual ability.
So it's a continuous
it's a continuous process. And I believe that we would get to a comfortable destination as time goes on.
All right. Tolani Ojuri, we thank you very much for your time with us on TVC Breakfast.